Welcome to the Root of It All podcast with Tree, where you will learn new habits for human betterment. We talk about all things related to personal growth, and everything is on the table. Each episode will explore different topics like self-care, mindfulness, goal setting, and more, with a focus on practical tips and actionable advice you can start implementing in your life today. Our goal is to help you become the best version of yourself and live a more meaningful life. So grab a drink, cozy up, take your dog for a walk, or go for a drive. Join us for some fun and meaningful conversations with some amazing humans. Let's grow together.
Hey, that's a great thing. I say tea with tea, you know?
So hello, everybody, and I am super stoked to share Teresa with you. So welcome to the Root of It All podcast with Tree, but this is Teresa from Santele Healing Circle. And did I pronounce that right?
Santele, yeah.
Santele Healing Circle. Everyone that's listened to the podcast, I am like this pronunciation of names. It's just, I need to get better at it for sure. But thank you so much for taking your time. And I am so excited to share what it is that you do with people, for people, for teaching people. So my first question for you, what got you into doing what you do? And then also tell people what you do, because I'm sure people are listening and they're like, ooh, what does she do?
I do whatever you need me to. No. So Sandalist is how you say Teresa in my native tongue, which is a Mi'kmaq. So I am from First Nation, the Listatook First Nations in what is now known as the southwestern part of Nova Scotia. So it's the land of the Mi'kmaqi, ceded traditional lands of the Mi'kmaqi. That's where my ancestors really on both sides are from, and which today has been renamed to Nova Scotia, PEI, New Brunswick. It also takes in parts of Quebec and Vermont and Maine. Parts of that. Wow. So that was the Wabanaki.
Like today, you're saying that it's changed?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It changed because colonization changed the names of everything, but that is the unceded traditional lands of the Mi'kmaqi, which is part of the Wabanaki Confederation. So, but those are unceded traditional lands. We never ceded those over, so we still view that as Mi'kmaqi. It's just been changed to PEI, New Brunswick, so forth.
Yeah. Cool.
So there's where I am from, and so as I mentioned, Teresa is my English name, but in Mi'kmaq it's Sandalist, and I'm Bear Clan, and yes, from my grandmother's side. So in our nation, we go through the grandmothers to get your clan, and so I'll end my introduction on that. And so what I do is,
I have a question though about you get your clan from your grandmother. So teach me.
Passed along, yes. Yeah.
So what does that mean? Like your clan? Like, is it a group? Is it like, yeah, teach me about that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, sure. So different nations, some go through the father's line, the grandfather's line, but Mi'kmaq, we go through the grandmother's line. So you're given a clan, you're assigned a clan. We live by a clan system. So there's a Bear Clan, there's a Wolf Clan. I'm trying to think what the other clans are here on the spot, but there's different ones, and Bear. The other ones will come to me in a minute. And so it lets you know what your role is in the community, what your responsibilities are, and also helps identify your behavior, actually in line with the subject here, your role and your behavior. So when you think of a bear, they're very protective. They provide medicine. They're wise, smart, intelligent, and many other features. And so we draw from that, and it identifies who we are. So when we're introducing ourselves as Indigenous people, we don't just say our name and what we do for work. And I'm from, Smith Falls or whatever. We identify who we are, our spirit name. So in English, my spirit name is Keeper of the Medicines. So you're given a spirit name, and that identifies you not just in this world, but in all realms, and then in the spirit world. And so when they hear the name, they know it's me. And your spirit name also lets you know what your role is. in your community. So keeper of the medicines.
Mm-hmm.
There's, you can either learn more about that as you go along, or, for me, when I was given that, I immediately thought, well, I don't know all the medicines. And then I realized medicine comes in different forms, a
Mm-hmm.
smile, a hug. There's different ways of medicine. And so, you're giving your spirit name and you're giving your clan, and that lets you know what your role and your responsibilities are, as a person, as well as in your community and in your nation. So it helps with our identities and
Mm-hmm.
help you keep us grounded, because when you know who you are, where you come from, and what your roles are, then that's what kept us so grounded, and still does today, knowing all that. So,
Yeah.
um,
And I was actually just going to say what you just said about how just
yeah,
knowing that and knowing your place, knowing your purpose and your role, that it just, okay, then that's what it is that we do. And that it's so fascinating, this whole I love what you do because of the education piece of that you're teaching people as well. So how did you get into that? Like, how did you build this business and
yeah,
why?
right. And so that's who I am. And so what I do is, yes, we do educational workshops where we do many different things. We do circle work. So, but in predominantly, we do the blanket exercise, the KAIROS Blanket Exercise, which many people have heard of. But if not, it's a workshop, a learning circle is more what I call it, and where we walk through um, 500 years of history, and in particular here in Canada, it'll be Canadian history. We also go to the U.S., so we'll walk through the U.S. history. Um, and we start with pre-contact, because oftentimes when we talk about history in relation to Indigenous people, it starts at contact.
Hmm.
Or when we're talking about the history of a place, it starts at contact. But we go before contact. And especially being Mi'kmaq, we were the first to make contact on the east side there, on the eastern shores. And so I spent a great deal of time with that, how we lived before contact. And then we walked through Canadian history, the different changes that happened as Canada was being formed. We give the voice on both of that. So I work along with non-Indigenous facilitators, and that we share the story. And then as things were happening in Canada, as that voice is being spoken, we'll also speak on the Indigenous part of that and how it was affecting the original peoples on the land.
Hmm.
So with the British North America Act, and with the Constitution Act and different things that happened along the way, how did that affect the original peoples that were there?
Hmm.
So that's what we walk through. It's a 3-hour workshop, um,
Hmm.
and it's interactive and engaging. So
Hmm.
all the participants are embodying Indigenous people as we walk through that journey together. And we do it in person, and we also do it virtually. So there's different elements to both of them, but it's very impactful, very powerful, and I think I'm an advocate that every Canadian should at least go through it at least once,
And
to
yes.
really be able to um, understand their place in the space that they call home, which is,
Hmm.
in this case, which is Canada. So
Well, and the cool thing too, what I love about what you do and what I'm hearing you articulate is that even from like a human behavior point of view, when people go through this process and they learn more, and I love how you worded that, the space and place that they're in, like us as that are living in Canada, the space and place that they're in. And that people can get so caught up in busyness of life, or they got to do this, they got to do that, or they got to do this, or they're looking, what can I buy online? Or they're people get caught up with things even, right? Whereas with the culture and how you're teaching, that it's more about the space and the place, truly, right? And so for more people to actually learn this, I think it'd be greatly beneficial so that people are connecting more with themselves and the land that
mhm.
right. Yeah. So teach us about, because I know you and I have such great conversations. We end up on like a Zoom and all of a sudden like an hour will go by. And and so teach us about some pieces from your culture and the land.
Right. So without getting into the teachings, because teachings really they take a certain kind of, um thing. You just use
Yeah,
that word.
yeah, yeah.
But I'll share with you, yes, the connection to the land is very important. And I mean it affects human behavior, it affects
Mm-hmm.
all our relations, which is all our relations. All our relations are connected to the land. We are the land, we are, it's not just us humans, it's also the trees, the plants, the animals, the water, the fish. Everything is connected to the land, and it affects our behavior. It affects, how we move, how we function in the world, how we navigate life. Everything is that connection to the land, including our behavior, and the
Yes.
behavior of everything around us. We see the seasons changing, and it's the behavior affected, that's affected by the land that we live in. So it's important to know what our place is in the space that we take up, because then we know what our responsibilities are. It also helps us know, why we behave a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
How we interact with the land is really, it's paramount. And as I mentioned, it's um, where I'm from, the Mi'kmaq territory is
Mm-hmm.
unceded and traditional. So that, you know, when we say it's unceded, it means we didn't give over the land. And the reason why too is because we don't own land. So as Indigenous people, we don't have that concept of land ownership. It's not
Mm-hmm.
something we own. It's something that we um,
Experience.
are a part of. We're a part of, and
Okay.
we're responsible to help take care of it, protect it,
Mm-hmm.
just as we would, ourselves or our relatives, because the land is a part of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's connected to the land: our language, our culture, our spirituality, um, our way of being. Everything is connected to the land, and so that's why it's important to know what are my responsibilities, what
Mm-hmm.
are my duties to the land, and the protecting of it. So in a nutshell, that's what most of us,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to note every Indigenous nation, has different teachings and different ways of thinking and being as far as how they do things. So it's important to note that. And I'm not speaking for all nations. I
Mm-hmm.
speak, for who I am and my people specifically. But yes, a connection to the land, that was something that is universal. It's
Well,
important.
and which is interesting because even you look at a lot of things that people are exploring and tapping into, and like grounding. People will take their shoes off and they'll walk on the earth, or people are trying to get more connected to the earth. So it's almost like that this and Indigenous people are just like, yeah, this is what we've been trying to do every
Yeah.
single time, and people are calling it like all of these different names and things, like in terms of like grounding, or which I'm sure there's a certain name that you use for that. But people are trying to connect back to actual natures and even go to different countries to find more natural habitat and things like that, where um, not to be dramatic, but we've basically just built over, and just to build and to, not to be sound dramatic again, but like for what? Like, yeah, we um up here in Canada, we're in like a safe society and stuff like that for the most part. But I think people get too fixated on things. But if they chose to get more fixated upon some of the things that you're talking about in terms of connecting with nature, or choosing for themselves a clan, right? Or a version of that, that they would just be choosing a purpose, and that people wouldn't feel so lonely, they wouldn't feel so lost, they wouldn't feel a lot of the feelings of what people come into the clinic for when it comes to stress and overwhelm. And that's what I love about this culture. Like, it's interesting, like I grew up, my dad was adopted, and we found his real mom, and his dad is actually Indigenous from Timmins. And so, because I grew up, my mom and my mom's side's British, so they all have blonde hair, blue eyes. And so just my dad and myself have this like totally different complexion. So it was like even pictures of my family, they'd be like, oh, or my sister would show pictures of the family and be like, oh, who's that? Right? Because I just like stood out like a sore thumb. And so, but I always felt, even before I found out about my dad, connected with this culture and connected with nature in this way. And I've never been a things person. Like I've always more connected with, well, my name's Tree, so like but so maybe you can teach people what they could perhaps look out for themselves, coming from not that culture, of what maybe is something that they can maybe not do, but just like what tip could you give people to allow themselves to feel more connected to nature?
Um, yeah, because it's not necessarily a cultural thing. It's who we
Yeah.
are as human beings, right?
Yes.
A connection to the land, no matter where we come from or what our ancestry is, because we are, part of the land. We're part of everything around us.
Mhm.
Emsit Nogama, which is
And I love that. I love what you're saying. Keep going.
yeah, it's all my relatives, all my relations. Um, just and that every day, day to day, just always, find a way to connect with your relatives.
Mhm.
Whether it's being outside or, you mentioned grounding bare feet. And what came to mind is one of the worst inventions was the rubber shoe, rubber on the shoe, because it stops that connection, when we wear rubber running shoes, everything has that, right? So
Mhm.
you take your shoes off and you're just connecting, automatically connect when you see, birds, instead of being annoyed by them, sometimes
Being
their
annoying.
noise,
Yeah.
waking you up at 4 a.m. or whatever. Connect, like they're telling you something. Connect when you see the trees blowing, the
Mhm.
wind telling you something,
Mhm.
talking to you. I mean, that,
The sound of that is amazing. I
yes, they're soothing. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, especially when there's like a lot of trees and you can hear the wind. Like if your eyes are closed, you can actually hear the wind through the leaves of the trees, which is absolutely a fabulous
yeah,
experience to have.
yeah. And if you buy water, in most places, most of us are within a short distance.
Mhm.
Water, I mean, water is a life form that is connected, especially as women. We're connected to the water, and there's so much live energy that we get from that. And just
So,
every day, connecting with your relatives is the best way I can say it. And everything around us is a relative. And there's medicine we get from that, just being in their presence, in its
mhm,
presence, whatever that is. And then you know and always, not just to take, it's we live very much by reciprocity. You never just take something, you always give back. And so tobacco is one of our secret medicines, so we always lay tobacco. When you go and you receive something, you're working in your garden.
mhm,
Working in the garden is another great way, whether it's a flower garden or weed garden like I have, or a medicine garden or what have you. Just whenever you're interacting with Mother Earth, lay down thank you, an offering of thanks with the tobacco. If you pick something from your garden, or if you pick something from a tree, or you take fish from the water,
mhm.
always, always give thanks, give back, lay tobacco for that. So yeah, there's many things you can do throughout the day. Just go out and enjoy grandfather sun, or
Mhm.
when the grandmother moon is out, just go out and appreciate it and give thanks and connect with it. Those are, I mean, it's all around us all the time, and they're there, and that's what they want to do. They help.
Yeah, it's free. Like you don't even, it's just actually choosing to have the experience, choosing to take the time for an experience. And that's what I find, that people can end up too much in their head or in worry or
Mhm.
stressing themselves out. And I love I'm just gonna repeat a couple of things that you said, and I love everything that you're saying, but like the grandfather sun and grandmother moon. That would,
Mhm.
like, I love that. That's so beautiful. For me, I get out every single morning, and even on Instagram, I post pictures of the sun every morning. If it's out, it's still this, I still post pictures of nature, or anything that is around me. And that's how I've always connected. And that's why it was interesting when I found out my roots, my background. I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. But anybody can can do this. Anybody can get themselves more grounded, more rooted. And one of the things I love about yours and my conversations is this spiritual element, this
Mhm.
beautiful, and also that when you and I chat, we can chat about anything. Like
Mhm.
we've chatted about like menopause, hormones, um, even pets, and having to put pets down, and even the spirituality of like emotions and
Yeah.
sage. Like even just before we got on the podcast, I got a sense that she was burning sage, and I go, "You're burning sage," and she's like, "Oh, you can see it." I go, "No, I can smell it." And it's true, like from a human behavior, like I can get a sense because our brain goes back to the last time that you were in the presence of that. And so in a sense, I could, pardon the pun, in a sense, I can actually smell that. And that is truly the magic of everything that you're describing, because there is beautiful magic when it comes to all of the things that are naturally growing on this planet that is turning and spinning within a universe, but yet here we are as humans. And so one thing that really frustrates me is that when you look at the world from this perspective of us as humans are on this planet, like, oh my gosh. And but yet people still look for conflict, or they look to try to have things a certain way. They try to poke holes at something and then try to change it, or try to um sometimes maybe try to make it better. But does it need to be better? Does it just need to be appreciated? So if all of us as human beings, if we started to just appreciate and take everything in and take a moment and connect with all of the nature, and to learn about different cultures, learn about the history of the land that we're on, and embrace everything around us, I honestly think the world would be a better place.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And is there so is there anything specific that you want to share that you feel like is really important for people to either know about what you do, or about the culture, or even anything else? I mean, anything's on the table. It's the Root of It All podcast. So it's literally anything you want to share. You're such a great like faucet of information.
Well, thank you. And I'm always learning. As I say, we're all students and we're all teachers, and I love to share what I learn, and I'm still learning and continue to learn. Nobody knows everything. No one's a know-it-all. And yeah, they think they are, but they're not. Um, not everyone is Google. But yeah, no, it's just important, that's something there's many things I'm very passionate about, and I could do 20 podcasts on them all, but just having that respect and that humble recognition and respect for the land and the original peoples on the land.
Mhm.
Because if we don't have that, how can we be successful, or how can we forge a better life, I guess, or do how can we move better as a society if we can't
Mhm.
first get back to the drawing board here?
Mhm.
We speak of truth and reconciliation, and that's coming up, next month. So a lot of people may have that on their minds, on their agendas, on their you know on the forefront. And I call it truth and reconciliation. Because
Mhm.
really, there's one thing to take in information and become aware. We keep becoming aware of things.
Mhm.
We can get really comfortable staying in that awareness part. As I say, we're all teachers, we're all students, so we keep learning.
Mhm.
But what are we doing with this awareness? Are we just sitting with it, or are we doing something about it? And then we say, well, what do we do? I don't know what to do. And as I always say, spirit will guide you what to do. What spirit will help you move you in the right direction, or have the right conversations, or interact with the right people to know what you're supposed to do, or what what we need to do. So as we move into that, and that awareness with the TRC, Orange Shirt Day, some people call it, coming up on September 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Indigenous Month in November, in June. It's not just holidays on the calendar, this is, if we've all chosen to live here, to settle here, to visit here, or whatever our place is,
Mm-hmm.
whether we're a settler, a visitor, or original person on the land, what is beyond just acknowledging, many in Canada have been doing the land acknowledgements for over 10 years now. I think in the US, they're just kind of starting to do them. But what is a land acknowledgement? Other than, has it just become something we're just repeating by rote? What is that connection to the land? What is our purpose and goal, and our objectives, personally as well as organizations,
Mm-hmm.
in reconciling, the lands and what's happened on these lands. And as I say, we have to visit the past in order to know where we are, so here and now, so that we know where we're going. Otherwise, we're just going to keep repeating what's been happening for the past couple hundred years, right? So that's in a nutshell, what I want everyone to I mean, I could so much more I could say on that, but
Oh, for sure.
to just really stop and pause and say, who am I, and what is my connection to these lands? So when we introduce ourselves, who am I, and what is my connection to the land?
Mm-hmm.
And then what is my gift? That's something when we introduce ourselves, like, rather than just, hi, my name is
So
Teresa.
so let's start a trend. So anybody that's listening to this, every human that you meet, you get to know their name, but instead of saying what do you do, say what is your gift. So let's just start, as a culture, let's just start changing that right now. I'm actually going to start doing that. What is your gift?
One of your gifts? Because we have many gifts, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And we receive those gifts from the Creator. And oftentimes, as you mentioned earlier, we're in the hustle and bustle, and we're just not stopping to even take time for ourselves to realize what gift do you give to your community, family, to your society, and to yourself,
Yeah.
So when we introduce ourselves, when you have a name as well, if you have a traditional name, and maybe you've anglicized it, because there's a lot of that happens here in Canada. People come from other places, and their name, may not be Anglo-Saxon, and so they change it to be more, quote unquote, here's my air marks
Air
there,
quotes, yeah.
quotes, to make it sound more Christian. Introduce your traditional name and what it means, translate it for us. Because when someone, for those of us who might need that translation, because that says so much about who you are. It doesn't just tell me your name, Tree, but it tells me, because oftentimes when people are gifted a name in other cultures, other languages, it's more than just, Teresa. It means, in fact, Teresa means harvester. A harvester of something or other. I can't remember, but a harvester for sure. It's Latin. So then that it helps identify who you are. It helps connect you to more than just yourself, to the world around us. And so, just how we go about our everyday ways of being and interacting with each other. And but that's to give humble respect and recognition to the lands and the people who were here and who are still here. It wasn't just a blip in history. It's not just historical things that have happened. There's still ongoing things on the land. And for a lot of people, that's scary. It's scary to try to, delve into that, but come to a blanket exercise, sign up, have your group sign up and do that with us.
Teach people how they can connect, teach people how they can get a blanket exercise. So whether, like, who do you work with, companies, individuals, and how would they go through that process?
Predominantly it's with organizations and companies who have either heard of it or someone on their team has heard of it. So they want to do a bit more than just have somebody come in and speak on a particular topic. They actually want to get in, roll their sleeves up, and do something and find out what to do. So the blanket exercise, as I always say, is it's one of the great ways of the foundation, to spring off from there, because we touch on so many different topics that we cannot delve into, but the goal is for you to keep the learning journey going thereafter. So yeah, you can find us on our website. That's the best way, because it's
Yeah. And we will have we'll have your website link.
because there's a online form there you can fill out, and that comes right straight to us, and we try to meet all your requests. Is within 24 hours we'll get back to you. So we have a team that diligently works on requests. We're on social media as well, Facebook and Instagram, and word of mouth, just reach out, and we try to be really hands-on, so you're not going to be met with a machine or anything. You will either speak with myself or my admin team, and we work, as I said, with organizations or individuals. Now, if you're an individual and you just want to do it yourself, every once in a while we'll have a open to the public.
Okay.
Open to the public one, a community one. So we're aiming to have one on this up and coming September 4th, just in the afternoon, from 2 to 5. I think that's when we were going to do it. So
yeah, so you'll give me all that information and we can put it in. So thank you so much for this. I love hearing all of this stuff and the connecting with nature. And again, I strongly believe when it comes to spirituality, I love what you said, connecting with your, like you were calling nature your family, right? Connecting with, yes, that, and I love that, because it truly is that nature teaches us so much. Like even from the way, the resiliency of it, that it makes it through, excuse me, all kinds of seasons, right? Like all kinds of weather, wind, rain, snow, ice, and all of this stuff. So resiliency, it teaches us growth. It teaches us diversity, all kinds of things. So go ahead.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there. I thought of this earlier and I forgot, and it's come back to me. So it means I must say it. An elder once said, I heard an elder once say, we don't need those relatives. We don't need the birds. We don't need everything around us. Sorry, we need it. They don't need us. Sorry, it was reverse on that. So when she was giving her Thanksgiving prayer, that's what she mentioned humans last, because everything around us can function without us, but we can't function without water, without the land, without the air, without plants and animals. They can function with us. So helps us to put that in perspective, like, how we're important, but we're not the almighty important, like
exactly. Nature does not need us, but we need it. On so many different levels. So I'm not sure where this tickle in my throat.
Hope you're okay. I didn't mean to just keep talking over while you were choking to death.
No, I actually wanted you to. So that's good. I was like trying to hide it. So
but I took that cue. So
yes, good. See, we are always in sync with everything.
I don't want to seem insensitive, like, oh, she's just dying in the background, but anyway.
But so let's leave people with that the fact that all of the nature around us does not need us. It does not need us. We actually need it. And that is such a powerful statement. And we'll leave everybody with that. And actually, I want to repeat one more time, is that when you're talking to people, what is one of your gifts? So you're asking them, what is one of your gifts? I love that. And I'm going to start using that. And we're going to have Teresa's all of her information in the show notes. And thank you again so much for sharing all of this.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor and a privilege. So thank you so much. And yeah, I'll hope to touch base with you again soon. All right.
You bet.
Well, folks, that's a wrap for today's episode of The Root of It All with Tree. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. But before we go, I just wanted to remind you that you can follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram. And we will be posting motivational quotes and behind the scenes content that you won't want to miss. You can always sign up to come live while we're filming this, or even join us online through Zoom. We always offer open question and answer after each episode that we don't record, so it's all private, but you can get more involved. So sign up for free at businessgrowthresults.com, and we're going to cover all kinds of different topics that you're not going to want to miss. And if you're looking for that one-on-one guidance or help, be sure to book a free screening. You can do that at burlingtonhypnosis.ca or call 905-634-4777. And finally, you can catch our podcast on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.